What's going on, Bills Mafia? I'm Fernando Schmude, that's your leading the charge. And today I have the 53-man projection for the Bills roster. Cut day is approaching. Last preseason game just around the corner. The Bills play the Panthers today. And then we can really focus on regular season football, week one, Bills Cardinals, and decisions to be made ahead of this matchup. The Bills needs to trim down their roster to 53 men, and some really tough decisions to be made for Brandon Bean, Sean McDermott, the Bills coaching staff, because I gotta be honest with you, it's been tougher than I believed. Right, I've made this exercise in the past. I did it during week two of OTAs, right, and it was kind of easier to decide among those players to have the final 53 figured out than it was recently. I'm writing this last piece for Buffalo Rumblings as well, and I already put on the paper all my 53 names, right? And I will share it with you today with my reasoning for those decisions. But still have a couple of doubts, a couple of situations with the last two or three names. So I will share those with you today, and let me know what do you think. Let me hear you. So you can always participate in chat live with me here via Rumblings Network. You can also comment on the YouTube comment section. After all, if you're not watching live and not with me right now, or you can even um, be listening to it via your favorite podcast aggregator. You have Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, all those places, Megaphone. We are available there. So please support us from Rumblings Network. We are back with the support from Buffalo Rumblings as well. And I really ask you to support us, hit that like button, subscribe to Rumblings Network channel, subscribe to my own Fernando Schmude channel. The band is back together with great shows. The Chop Up is back, Bruce Exclusive is back, Jimmy D and Big Nuke is back, Sarah Larson is back with her own show as well. So all the guys are, Code of Conduct is back with Jay Spence. So great content by Rumblings Network all season long. I'm sure you will find your favorite shows there and stick with us. So always asking for your help, for your support, and please hit that like button and help and support us, please. Um, so let's start talking about this roster. I have a list here with Sal Capacio's has put together a Bills roster. He's always updating his charts, so I'm using those names, this roster by Sal Capaccio. Shout out to Sal for a great job, great content, always covering the Bills. And I will use his roster to make the cuts and to reason about it, right? And to give you my reasoning for those decisions. So, without further ado, let's move on. Um, First of all, I'd like to start with the old obvious names, right? So Tyler Bass, he's a lock right now, right? The Bills are sticking with Tyler Bass. Sam Martin the same, and Reed Ferguson as well, right? Brandon Bean was even asked about those approaches of cutting Reed Ferguson to carry a guy to 53-man roster, then put in the injured reserve and bring him back. And he said some rules have been changed, so he might not do that. He can designate two guys to go directly to the injured reserve. So Matt Milano certainly should go that route, but we'll see. And other than the three special team guys, obviously Josh Allen is a lock, right? James Cook. I will start with the starters, right? Reggie Gideon is kind of starter, right? But he's a special teamer. He's part of this roster, in my opinion. He can play a little bit tight end. He has a important role in special teams. He can play fullback, obviously. So I don't see the Bills moving on from Reggie Gideon. I'm not 100% they wouldn't because there are some tough decisions to be made, but I have Gillian making the roster. Then the starters at wide receiver: Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, obviously, right? All those guys are making the team for sure. Mac Hollins is rotating in and is I believe he'll be a team captain, a special teams captain. So I have him making the roster. Then Dalton Kincaid is a starter, and I have him making the roster obviously as well. Dawson Knox as well. No surprises here. Our offensive line, the top five: Dion Dawkins, Spencer Brown at right tackle, Connor McGovern. And just remembering, I told you like in my last exercise during week 2 of OTAs that didn't expect I didn't expect a lot of competition in the offensive line for the starting positions, and it really never happened, right? So we had the top five locked on since the beginning of the OTAs, and it's difficult for a rookie, for example, like Vampire Granger. A lot of people expecting him to be able to break in this starting lineup. It didn't happen. I feel like we have a solid group here. It's a new group playing together. David Edwards is a full-time starter now. McGovern at center, obviously, but I think they'll be fine with the top five. I really trust Cromer. So in the defense, the starters: Greg Rousseau, AJ Peneza, right? Von Miller is he's not a starter anymore, but we know he's the go-to guy on passing downs and how important he is in the rotation. So I will lock him in as well. Inside, Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones, the starters at defensive tackle. Then Terrell Bernard and Dorian Williams, the starters at linebacker. Taron Johnson, the nickel. Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford, the corners, the starters, right? Um, Taylor Rapp, the other starter at safety. Those guys are locked, right? And I feel confident to put Cole Bishop here as well. I don't think he will start week 1, right? But he'll be a starter down the line. I think he'll be prepared to start, and by the season's end, I expect Bishop starting. The only way I don't see it happening is if a guy like Mike Edwards or Damar Hamlin or Ken Lewis, who gets an opportunity to start, really plays so well that blocks Cole Bishop way into the starting lineup. But I really believe Bishop will be able to break in at some point. He'll be rotating for sure. Not having Milano opens up the opportunity for the Bills to play more that dime package, bringing a safety to the box, and might be a role for Bishop, might be a role for Ramp. Even Mike Edwards has experience to playing this role for the Chiefs, so several opportunities here. So we have here the starters, a little other few pieces that surely will contribute a lot, and we have the first part. Those guys I see as the locks for this roster, right? I don't see those guys not being part of the roster. The only exception here might be Gilbert if they Gillian, sorry, if they want to really, if they struggle to make the final decision and want to go in a different direction, Gillian might be a possibility to not be part of the roster, but I don't believe so. I think he's important special teams player, and he'll be part of this 53-man roster. So let's start going to the backups and the tougher decisions maybe to be made, right? And with the backups, I will start with the guys that I have more confidence they will be in this list. Okay, so At the running back room, I think we don't have questions in the running back room. Okay, I think Ty Johnson lost his running back two spot, but I believe he still is the floor guy, the security blanket for the coaching staff. Like when they need to close a game, when they need to surely not put the ball on the ground, to take care of that football. Ty Johnson is their guy. I think Ty Johnson is the guy they trust the most to be able to come in and not mess up, right? But Ray Davis had a door open for him with Ty Johnson's injury during this training camp and preseason, and he made the most of it. I think Ray Davis is the number two guy now, and he's a great all-around piece, right? He can pass block, he can catch the ball. So if James Cook struggles with in these areas, and we know he has struggled in those areas, Ray Davis can see his snaps increasing and his opportunities increasing. All right. So those three, in my opinion, locks to the roster. Okay. Um, in the offensive line, we have some locks as well. Like Ryan Van Der Mark is a lock, in my opinion. Okay, Ryan Van Der Mark is a guy uh, that has been developed. Is the swing tackle. He used to play better as a left tackle last off season and in the training camps preseason. He played really well as a left tackle, not so well as a right tackle. This year, the Bills have played him at right tackle, and he's hold his own. So I think Van der Mark is a lock, and he's the swing tackle. If for some reason we need somebody to step up in John Dawkins or Spencer Brown's place, Ryan Van der Mark will be this guy. Um, other guys that don't see not making the team. Let's go. Austin Johnson, in my opinion, also a lock as Daquan Jones' backup, right? Dwayne Carter, other rookie, third round pick, is a lock in my opinion. I don't think he's a lock to see a lot of playing time, but they won't risk trying to put him um, on practice squad. So he's a lock in my opinion. Uh, Kyrie Elam is a lock, but I will talk more about him later. But assuming he's on the roster, assuming he will continue with the Bills, he's a lock. Um, and then things start to get a little bit cloudy, in my opinion. Okay, now once anything can happen, I still think there are guys that obviously will be on the roster, but now on, I feel like decisions can be made. You can go some different directions, right? Mike Edwards is recovering from his injury. He might start week one, and I don't see the Bills cutting the guy, right? Ken Lewis is an important special teams player. Can play in Teron Johnson's place. And honestly, I feel more confident about Ken Lewis starting than Damar Hamlin. Okay. And 2-year deal. So I don't see the Bills moving on from Ken Lewis at all. Okay. He's an important depth piece and he'll be part of the roster, in my opinion. Um, and so, just like I said, now on, you can think about several directions, but Dwayne Smoot is a guy that might not be showed up a lot during preseason, but he'll be an integral part of this rotation, and he can play inside and out. A good pass rusher, experienced one, and I think he'll be part of this rotation. He'll make the team, and I think Javon Solomon makes the team as well. I think the rookie has impressed, and the Bills can't try to stash him in the practice squad. This is a guy that gotta be part of the 53-man roster, and even might see some possibilities, some opportunities in the rotation as a specialist, as a pass rusher. He's a guy that if for some reason Von Miller isn't delivering, or Smoot isn't delivering, or even a Peneza who's going to be the starter for week one, Javon Solomon can surprise some people. I think this is a guy that can surprise a lot of people. I feel I'm really, really high on Solomon. I never felt that good about Epeneza or Boogie Basham, or even Greg Rousseau early when in Solomon was a later round pick, like a fifth round pick, and I feel good about the guy. I think he can surprise a lot of people, and obviously he's a rookie, so it's early for him, but he'll be part of this roster, in my opinion. Moving on. Marquez Valdez-Scantling should be part of this roster as well as wide receiver. There is a possibility he's ready for week one. He's the field stretcher. He's the guy that should rotate in and try to stretch the field on some situations. And I feel like this top five is kind of locked for the wide receiver room. I also believe Quinty Morris will be on the roster. I think he's a really, really good tight end three. I don't see many tight end threes better than Quintin Morris. Many I going through other rosters, I can see really other teams having better tight end threes than Quintin Morris. I think the guy already showed when he got some starting opportunities for the Bills when we missed Dawson Knox injured and Dalton Kincaid wasn't a Bill yet, that he can play and be a mismatch in the passing game. He can also block decently. So Zach Davidson um, has made some plays, has showed some glimpses during this off season, but I don't feel like it's enough to surpass and make Quintin Morris expendable. Right? Quintin Morris has played ahead of him the entire preseason, and I really believe he's a lock here. I believe Leo Collins will be in on the roster. The veteran can play left guard and right tackle. He's better at guard nowadays and experienced guy, and so he'll be part of the roster. And I believe Cedric Van Granger also will be part of the 53-man roster. Another talented rookie that you can't really risk trying to put on the practice squad. So he'll be part of the roster as well. And then we have like three, six, seven, eight offensive linemen. I will close the offensive linemen with nine. All right. And Alec Anderson is my ninth offensive lineman. He's very versatile. He can play center. He can play guard. So with those four offensive linemen, the Bills have some versatility here, right? It's really really difficult to cut Tylen Grable, especially. Let me just mark him here. The rookie has played well during preseason, good left tackle with potential. I feel like Cromer can develop him really well, but we'll see that the decisions will be tough late. And Tylen Grable is the guy that I in this situation would try to stats in the practice squad. Won't be easy. The Bills have lost some offensive linemen recently trying to do that. So if you can avoid it, you do it. But in my exercise, I really couldn't avoid it. All right. Mitch Trubisky, for me, is the quarterback too. Not that I like it, not that I'm comfortable with it, but I feel like the Bills are. I feel like the Bills are comfortable with him. They offered him a 2-year deal. He's dealing with a knee injury now. Um, DiNucci and Anthony Brown are guys that will battle for a practice squad spot at best in this last game against the Panthers. I don't see them as threats for Mitch, and maybe the Bills can elevate one of them from practice squad for week one, but not full time backup ahead of Mitch Trubisky. I don't believe in that. Maybe the Bills obviously can sign somebody from other teams because we have some battles for backup spots, and some people will be unemployed soon, right? The Falcons have Taylor Heinicke playing against Penix, and we know Penix is maybe their future, so maybe Heinicke is available. Um, there are other backups that will be fighting for their jobs, like Mike White other names that might be good options for the Bills to consider to bring on Mitch Trubisky's place. But in this case, they would take Mitch Trubisky's spot, right, and not Dinucci or Brown. So with what I have on my hands here, Trubisky has this place until another veteran comes in and takes his job, right? And even thinking about this situation, it's not that easy because to bring a veteran to come in and learn the schemes as the season goes on, they might not feel very comfortable about it. They might feel like Trubisky can be this guy and bet on him. So uh, Trubisky is part of my roster for now, and things are starting to get tougher now, right? I closed the offense line with 9 names, right, and not 10. Tylen Grable is a guy that I'd love to have as my 10th guy, but I found it difficult to have space for him on this roster. And the last name on my offensive side of the ball, I have already 5, 6, 11, 14, 14, 23. The 24th name, right, from the offensive side of the ball is Tyrell Shavers for me. That was and it was one of the last decisions, right? And I had Tyrell Shavers making the team ahead of Grable. And my reasoning is the Bills are a little bit shaken up in the wide receiver group. We don't know for sure if Curtis Samuel or Marcus Aldis-Scantling will be able to play week one. And okay, that's not the end of the world. You can elevate a guy from practice squad, and KJ Hamler should be there, or even Andy Isabella. So you have some options. You have some options with your practice squad. Practice squad players can come in and be elevated and help you, right? But Tyrell Shavers can offer some cover for the wide receivers, but especially he has a role. He has an important special teams role that people most of the time really don't value. But remember how valuable Cyron Neal has been or was for the Bills for years, right? He was a valuable special teams player, a valuable gunner, and that's the role that Tyrell Shavers really took over now that Neal isn't on the roster anymore. Tyrell Shavers is your gunner number one, right? So if you have a guy that is a can be a key piece for these special teams for years to come and still be a cover for the wide receiver room, I think he gets the nod over other guys as the sixth receiver, and he gets the nod over your 10th offensive lineman, a rookie developmental sixth round pick. So I feel like Shavers makes this team and is an important piece for these special teams, right? And closing the offensive guys with 24 names. Then the three special teams, 27. And then I have 31 with the safety so far. Then the corners, 35. The two linebackers, 37. For defensive tackle, 41. And 46 with the defensive end groups, right? 46 names. So I will put Deshaun Williams in the roster as well as the 47th name. Deshaun Williams is a veteran, savvy veteran. I feel like um, Dwayne Carter has got a lot of snaps, but when interviewed, Bob Babich said, okay, he's a rookie. He needs the snaps, he needs the reps, he needs to learn. I don't feel like they are comfortable with Dwayne Carter being Ed Oliver's main backup right now. I think Deshaun Williams is still ahead of him. Remember, Deshaun Williams has been a guy that has played a lot in the NFL for the Panthers, for the Broncos. He started there. He's ahead of Dwayne Carter right now. Simple as that, right? Dwayne Carter might have more potential, but he's not a better defensive tackle right now than Deshaun Williams. So Deshaun Williams makes the team, and Dwayne Carter is the same Solomon situation where he can fight for a spot. He can be rotating in. He can try to be part of the game day roster, but it's not there isn't a lot of pressure on him to perform right now. He can be developed and and go from there, right? So 47. Then the linebackers, right? Nicholas Morrow is was brought as the main backup for main plan B in case Dorian Williams needed more time, right? Remember, Terrell Bernard started in his second year, and he really surprised a lot of people, right? Playing so well and improving so much from year one to year two. And now the expectation is that Dorian can do the same thing, and it's not really the same. Here is the situation of apple and oranges. You know, I was really high on Bernard as a linebacker because I believed a lot on what I saw from his scouting reports about his mindset, his mentality, how much he studied the game, how prepared he was mentally for the game. All right, I had confidence in Bernard as an athlete as well, but my main confidence, my main source, what made me hit on Bernard as the guy for the Bills middle linebacker spot was I believed on what coaches and scouts told about him as a film junkie, as a guy that would lead the other players lead by example, be vocal, communicate well, be in the right place, the right time, be really prepared against any opponent, knowing what's coming. So that's what made me hit on Terrell Bernard because he really is that guy. With Dorian Williams, it's not that he's a student of game. It's not that he doesn't have a good head over his shoulders. Not about that. Dorian is extremely talented athletically, but he's coming from a college. He came from a college where his schemes were simplistic. All right, he didn't deal with so many information and so many pro style, or at least Bills level style defense with coverage, a lot of zone, a lot of quarters coverage when you start in zone and at some point it becomes man. There are a lot of communication going, a lot of things changing according to the way the wide receivers line up and the routes they run. So you really gotta be very, very prepared. It's not just line up and go and get it, you know. And Dorian is really, really good at this. Go and get it. As a hit seek missile, he can go and attack the line of scrimmage and tackle really, really well. But he's still gotta get better in communication department, in playing coverage and knowing the defense. Still, I believe he'll be able to play really well. I believe he'll be able to have a good season, and more he plays, more he gets comfortable in this defense. He won't play middle linebacker. He'll play Milano's role where he won't have as many responsibilities as Bernard has, and I believe he'll do well. The Bills obviously need to have a plan B, and Nick Morrow is this plan B, right? And he has struggled with. He had core muscle surgery during off season. He's struggled to be at 100%, and we don't have access to the player, and we don't have full knowledge about his medical situation. So that's tough because maybe Nicholas Morrow is a guy that Bean and McDermott can go to him and tell, look, you're still not right. You're still recovering from this surgery. Let's put you on injured reserve for now. Designate you to come back later, maybe. And that's it. Let's keep you there for now and open a roster space. I don't know. I don't know about his medical condition. So I don't know if he would be fine with that or if it would be another case of um, Chase Claypool, where you put on injured reserve and it's a couple of days until he wants an injury settlement to be free and sign with another team. So I don't know how Nick Moore would react to this kind of approach, but the Bills obviously know better with their access to the player and his injury. Anyway, I believe he's part of the roster. I believe he still is now the main backup, a guy with experience playing on both spots and experience also with the green dot for the Eagles. And Balon Spector is a guy that I didn't have in my previous roster preview, but I have him back now. The reason I didn't have him was because he has struggled with injuries and can't stay healthy, and he continues to struggle with injuries and continues to not be able to stay healthy. But he's a guy that knows this defense. He's a guy that has wore the green dot during preseason. He looked good. He's looked good when he played, but he gotta stay healthy. So another guy that the Bills might be able to stash on injured reserve, maybe. I don't know. For now, he's part of the roster and a guy that can be counted on when he's healthy, right? In the previous roster preview, I had Dion Jones ahead of him, and I don't have Dion Jones making the team anymore. I feel like Jones was a kind of a disappointment for me. I expected more for Dion Jones. He's not that old. He's 29. He's younger than Matt Milano. He's obviously years removed from his best days as a Pro Bowler or Pro type of linebacker, but I expect him as a veteran presence to be able to beat Balon Spector, um, to beat other linebackers, and he really couldn't, right? And we could see Joe Anderson starting ahead of him against the Steelers and playing really well. What makes me think that Dion Jones really isn't a guy that will be counted on for the 53-man roster. So we have four linebackers here, and decisions got to be made now, right? At the final linebacker spot here, or final two, all right? Ulufoshio is a rookie that they might not want to risk putting on the practice squad. And Joe Anderson, obviously, Buffalo Joe has played really, really well. We'll see against the Panthers now again, but he's more of a run defender, right? More of a player that does well what Dorian does well, like attacking the gaps and tackling hard. But he seems a guy that communicates well and a guy that has maybe a little bit more potential as a coverage guy, or at least communicating. He seemed really comfortable doing so. It's difficult to tell for sure from afar, but there is a reason the Bills played him ahead of Ulufosho, ahead of Jones, ahead of Spector and Morrow. Obviously, were out injured. So, and he made the most of his opportunity. So the decision got to be made here. Another guy that I see making the roster is Daquan Hardy, the rookie corner. He should be our returner, right? I believe he'll be the returner. And also, he's played extremely well as a cornerback, inside and outside. So that guy might be the next Christian Benford, the next Dane Jackson, the next Levi Wallace. This guy might be um, the next rough diamond that the Brandon Bean found late in the draft. Okay, really, really excited from what I've seen from Hardy so far, and I believe he makes the team. I didn't have him making the team in the previous exercise, but now I have him there as a returner and as a backup option at corner. And we are coming to the final decisions of this roster, right? Um, Let me recount it because so I had 24 players on offense, 27 here with special teams, then 31 with safeties, then 36, 40, 45, 50. I can still pick three players here, right? Is that correct? Yeah, I think so. So, Jamarcus Ingram has played extremely well as a corner, right? And I really don't believe the Bills have Kylan that that much ahead of Jamarcus Ingram right now, right? It's great. It's been great to hear that Kair has been able to play at a great level during this preseason and practices. But Jamarcus Ingram has put some impressive tape as well, some impressive performances as well. He's very physical, and I believe the Bills really like him. Can the Bills try to stash him on practice squad? Yet again, yes, they can, right? I put him on the roster here. Um, Not 100% sure he'll be there. The Bills obviously won't go to the roster with just four linebackers. They gotta add two more here or one more. And that's the final decision for me is like among those players, Jamarcus Ingram, Ulafosho, Anderson, Gable, and even Damar Hamlin, right? And I had Damar Hamlin out of in my exercise, but Damar Hamlin is a guy that has been starting, and he might start week one. He plays special teams as well. I don't feel he offers as much as Ken Lewis, but with everything involved related to Damar Hamlin and he being the long tenured safety on the roster, it's tough to not carry him there, right? I'd cut him, honestly. I'd cut Damar Hamlin and move on with the top four safeties there with Rap, Edwards, Bishop, and Lewis and secure the corners here. But I don't believe the Bills will do that. I'd do that, but I don't believe the Bills will do that. So Hamlin is part of the roster, and I can just put one more name here, right? And in my last name, I for from what we've seen right now, right? It's just one performance, and I know it's a huge deal in Buffalo because he's a Buffalo kid. But I'm not so sure a lot of NFL teams are ready to put Joe Anderson on their 53-man roster right now because of one good performance against the Steelers. Not so sure if there are a lot of NFL teams really dying for this opportunity of putting Joe Anderson right now on their roster. So the Bills might be able to carry Olofosho and try to stash Joe Anderson on the practice squad. All right. And then I'd close the 53-man roster like this. However, Bills Mafia, however, there is something that has been on my mind and I really believe it might happen. And that's something about Kyrie Elam being traded, right? I mentioned it with Matt Parino last week when I was talking to Matt Parino and here in the Leading the Charge, and I brought him this possibility of who knows if the Bills try to make with Elam what they did with Boogie Basham and try to move him now before it becomes too late. Obviously, Elam is showing a little bit more than Boogie Basham showed a lot when he got moved, right? He was having a great preseason as well. Um, but I feel like we are a little bit more confident Elam can still be productive for this Bills. And I feel also that most of our Bills Mafia fans and we aren't as comfortable not having Elam um, as the main backup and having Jamarcus Ingram, but I'm not so sure the Bills aren't as comfortable with Ingram as they are with Elam. So maybe with Daquan Hardy stepping up and becoming an option as an outside corner, something that they weren't really counting on that, right? McDermott is on record saying, okay, this guy got drafted to be a returner, right? That's what got him drafted. And being surprised by Hardy becoming a factor in the cornerback room and being an option playing inside and out. So this development alongside Jamarcus Ingram playing really well during preseason, it might make Elam expandable. And Parino said something interesting because he doesn't believe it's going to happen. But when he was thinking about that, he said something like, ideally, we have Kyle stepping up at some point for Sue Douglas and then becoming the go-to corner alongside Benford and a guy for the future. But in this case, you probably need to pay huge money for your both cornerbacks if both of them pan out. Like you need to pay great money for Benford and also pay great money for Elon at the same time. So it not might be ideal, you know. So thinking about all of that, I don't know. I believe if the Bills have an offer, a decent offer for Elon, like a second, a third, it's not that easy to get a second for Elon. He hasn't shown enough. But a third round pick for Elon, I think it's a good deal for the Bills, right? There's no guarantees, despite all good signs from Elon right now, and there are no guarantees he'll be a great corner for the Bills. I like the guy a lot. I'm still high on him, but the numbers games, you know, because in this roster right now, I'm forced to move on from Anderson for move on no because I'm hoping on stashing him at the practice squad, but he's out of the 53 and I'd like to have him in, right? So let me put a sign here as well, just like I did with Grable. I'd like to cut Damar Hamlin here, but I don't see it happening. A lot of injuries here. Who knows if Bishop Edwards will be back and ready to contribute? So you can, in a pinch, be back with Rat, Lewis, and Hamlin as your option. So we never know. And then try to stash Ingram on the practice squad. That's another possibility, but not sure if they will succeed there because this guy has put some good tape. We don't talk enough about how physical and how good Ingram has looked in his opportunities. And Grable is out of the roster as well. We're carrying 9 offensive linemen, right? So ideally Grable is in. Ideally Anderson is here is in. But then you need to find some options. Hamlin won't get cut, in my opinion, right? I'd cut him, but he won't get cut. And then maybe something injury related with Morrow, with Spector. I don't know. All I know is like for now it's difficult to fit all those guys in, and I can't really expose like Ingram, right? I can't really expose a guy like Ulofosho. I don't want, but maybe the Bills go with Anderson, try to put Ulofosho in the practice squad. I don't believe so. So right now, Anderson, despite all the hype and um, the great performance against the Steelers, he's outside looking in. And if he can play well against the Panthers again, maybe, and if Morrow really isn't ready so soon, you gotta consider having Anderson in and maybe Morrow out in injury reserve or maybe Spector out, so you can have Anderson as the main backup for Dorian and especially Terrell Bernard. So that's it, Bills Mafia. That's my preview for this roster. Let me go through it one more time before finishing and going through the chat to talk to you. If you have any questions, any opinions, any different ideas or any comments, feel free to tell me now in chat. I will go through it as soon as I finish to reviewing the 53-man roster. And it's always a pleasure to interact with you, Bills Mafia. Please hit that like button, subscribe to Buffalo Rumblings channel, to Rumblings Network channel, support us, right? Support my own Fernando Schmude channel as well, please. And so here's the Bills 53-man roster, Fernando Schmude's final edition. Josh Allen, Mitch Trubisky at quarterback, James Cook, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis at running back, Reggie Gideon at fullback, 6 wide receivers, Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Mac Collins, MVS, and Tyrell Shavers, your main gunner, and also a cover at wide receiver. 3 tight ends, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Quentin Morris. 9 offensive linemen, Dawkins, Brown, McGovern, Torrance, Edwards. And the 4 backups, Collins, Vandermark, Anderson, and Humphrey Granger, all very versatile. Tylen Grable didn't make the team here, unfortunately. I'd love to carry him on the roster. Moving to the defense, five edges: Miller, Rousseau, Epinesa, Smoot, and Solomon. Five DTs, five interior guys: Oliver Jones, Austin Johnson, Deshaun Williams, and Dwayne Carter. Five linebackers: Bernard, Dory Williams, Spector, Moore, Ulofosio, right? Anderson outside looking in, but really trying as soon as possible as doing something with injury reserve and stuff and bringing Anderson in, right? Likely elevating him on week 1 from practice squad. Corners: Taron Johnson, Douglas Benford, Kyrie Elam, Jamarcus Ingram, Daquan Hardy. Again, suspecting something will happen here, suspecting Kyrie Elam could be moved in a trade. Safeties: Taylor Rapp, Edwards, Bishop, Lewis, Hamlin. I had Hamlin out, but I believe Hamlin out is an option for me looking at this roster. I don't believe it's an option for the Bills. I don't think they will cut Damar Hamlin. And the special teams: Tyler Bassam, Martin Reed Ferguson. That's your 53-man roster. My final preview. What do you think about it, Bills Mafia? Let me know. Hit that like button. Support us. Let me go through chat. Sam H is here. Cornelius is here. Eric is here with a shutout from Brazil. Go Bills. Cornelius is here saying his hello. Sam H as well. Sam H thinks Hamlin stinks. Go with the young guys. I don't think he stinks, but I'm not really that high on him. I have Ken Lewis ahead of Damar Hamlin. Elam over Brees Hall was an unbelievable gaff by Bean, according to Sam H. Yeah, Brees Hall was a stud, but value of positions, right? And Sam he really doesn't know if you can have a pack of chips for Elam. Yeah. And Buff asks why, right? The thing about Elam is, okay, we are following him, and we have some news that he's practiced really well. He's looked good in preseason, but the truth is he hasn't really shown a lot in real game situations that makes him worth of a lot. I think he's more valuable for us than for other teams right now with the investment that the Bills has made on him. So it's difficult really to get a lot for the guy. Maybe from the Giants, maybe because the guys know him, but not sure. Sanage says his toughness, man-to-man skills we thought he had, haven't seen it. He's being a bit better now, but during preseason, but not sure. Buff says, why would trade him now? Because of the numbers game, man. I think like Hardy has become something where you didn't expect. Nobody was expecting Hardy to be a factor in the cornerback room, but he's showing he can play, right? And obviously he's not proven, but if we're honest, Elam isn't proven as well so far, right? I also love Elam. I also have some expectation in him, and I believe he can still rebound and be a good corner for the Bills. But just like I said, maybe even if he becomes a huge success, you need to pay him and Bayford almost at the same time and have two corners attached with a lot of money. The Bills might try to reset the situation and have Jamarcus Ingram, who's a guy who has played really well for cheap, and give Hardy a chance, or maybe even invest in a corner in the next draft. So if you can get something valuable for Elam right now, I think that's something you gotta consider thinking long term. Even if he goes elsewhere and ball out, you have Benford ahead of him right now, a young guy, and not ahead of him in depth chart just, but ahead of him on getting a new deal and showing him the money. All right, so that's something that the Bills gotta consider and the numbers game to keep everybody, to not allow some players to be there to be taken for other teams. And Buff also thinks he cuts Hamlin ahead. I think I'm being even surprised by people here because I always been pro moving on from Hamlin, like in this kind of situation where you need some spaces for other more talented young players, right? And a lot of people love Hamlin, and I understand that, and we are attached to the guy. His story is awesome, and it seems he's had a great off season. But that's a guy that has been uh, recently a starter for them, right? So just like I said, if Bishop and Edwards can't go week one, we might see Hamlin starting ahead of Ken Lewis. So, despite my intention of maybe cut Hamlin, despite I am comfortable cutting Hamlin, despite you being comfortable cutting Hamlin, I don't believe the Bills are, right? I don't believe the Bills are. So Eric asks about Frank Gore Jr. If he stays in practice squad, maybe. I think he plays for that, Eric. He plays for that now with against the Panthers because the last game was a good game by him, but he's playing with the fourth stringers, third stringers. So he's a candidate for practice squad for sure, but not a candidate for the 53-man roster right now. Zach Davidson as well is a guy that, yeah, he's practiced really, really well, but I don't see him making the team ahead of Quentin Morris. I don't see him making the team ahead of a wide receiver, like you stated here, because you have five wide receivers that are. I don't see Zach Davidson making the team ahead of Marcus Valdez-Scantling, for example, or Hollins. No way. And then Shavers is your gunner. He's not really a wide receiver first, but a gunner first, and then a cover for wide receiver. Zach Davidson is a cover for tight end, but he's not a huge contributor on special teams. So I don't see uh, Davidson making the team. Maybe a practice squad guy. Buff cut Spector. Yeah, I'd cut Spector. I got some hit in my first preview during week two of OTAs because I cut Spector to keep Dion Jones. I was expecting more from Dion Jones back then. And I'd cut Spector in a heartbeat to keep Anderson in this roster right now, for sure. Right? But I don't, again, same case with Hamlin. I don't see the Bills cutting Spector. I think they are comfortable with him. Um, it bothers me that he's always injured and can't stay healthy. But I don't see the Bills cutting him. That's why I didn't do that. But I'd cut him to keep Anderson for sure. I wouldn't, and his name is cool. Eric thinks his name is cool, so he wouldn't cut him, right? Um, and Sun H says I would have loved to have Trey Lance as the backup. He's been showing why being offered for Niners at six for him. Yeah, it would be nice because Trey is a guy that Josh got under his wing since he got drafted early, right? And he has all the tools. He could learn a lot from Josh and become a solid backup, right? A guy that I'd like to send something like a six, a late round pick, and try to bring on would be Malik Willis from the Titans. For the same reason, I think he has the mobility, he has the arm. He obviously the Titans aren't counting on him anymore, and he's young, so that's a backup that I see Malik Willis as a guy that could be developed the way that Tyrod got developed by the Ravens, to be a solid backup with mobility and a good arm and a guy that might be able to come in, protect the ball, and use his legs, keep drives alive. So I think Malik Willis would be a nice guy to try to bring on and develop. And I'd try that for sure if I'm being. We'll see what the Titans do with their quarterbacks. Sam agrees with the idea. And Buff says all the wide receivers, all five wide receivers are middle of the road talent. Man, I kind of disagree right now. I think we see like this, but by season's end, I believe Khalil Shakir will be one of the top slot wide receivers in the league. All right, I see Shakir as a he's a guy that can become easily a Robert Woods type, right? He's a guy that, in my opinion, is a poor man St. Brown. Amon St. Brown is obviously a top wide receiver in the league right now. Khalil Shakir is poor man's St. Brown, in my opinion, right now, and I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good to be poor man St. Brown, right? And he can be really good. Um, the other guys obviously are middle of the road talent, but even being middle of the road talent, I don't think Zach Davidson has done enough to be ahead of any of them, right? And Keon Coleman is a rookie, so he will have his growing pains, but he can become a really good player in time. So he got to get those snaps, right? So yeah, the Bills will need to keep an eye on this wide receiver room, see how they develop along the year. Maybe wide receiver will be a priority in the next draft again. Who knows? But right now, they've made the decision to go with this group, and I'm pretty high on Khalil Shakir first. And I really believe Curtis Samuel can be really good in this offense, better than a lot of people give him credit for. And Keon Coleman obviously can be developed and uh, become a difference maker here. Maybe take more time than what we'd like to see, but it can happen, in my opinion. Okay, guys. So that's it. Enjoy your Saturday, your last Bills preseason game because the real thing is coming, and can't wait to see the Bills against the Cardinals week 1. So that's it. I appreciate all of you taking your time to participate in chat. Good show, say Sun H. I really appreciate it. So hit that like button, subscribe to Rumblings Network channel, subscribe to my own Fernando Schmude channel as well, and support us. The band is back together, producing content with Buffalo Rumblings support as well. I will have this 53-man roster also written as an article for Buffalo Rumblings, so check it out there. And download and rate the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon and Megaphone as well. All right. All those places we have the leading the charge available. And I need your support. I need your likes, your downloads, your plays, and your ratings for the show. All right, guys. Really appreciate it. Great time together, Bills Mafia, and I'll be back tomorrow with the lead in the charge in Portuguese to Brazilian Bills Mafia international fans as well. Talking about this game from yesterday, having some fans as well debating what to expect from the Bills in week 1. That's it for today. See you around. Go Bills!